Good morning again to everyone in San Antonio, and good afternoon to everyone in Darmstadt. After meeting with all of the participants since early September, I'm both happy that we're getting together today with our meeting with the mayors, but I'm also sad as we're approaching the end of this project because I think we've had some great conversations over the course of the last 3 months. But hopefully following the conversation today, we're going to be able to find some ways to keep the conversations going long into the future. I'm really pleased that we have Mayor Ron Nirenberg from San Antonio and Oberbürgermeister Jochen Partsch from Darmstadt with us today to meet with all of you. I know it's an incredibly busy time of the year for everyone, and so I appreciate you taking the time. So welcome to both of you. Herzlich willkommen. First elected in 2017, Ron Nirenberg is in his second term as mayor of San Antonio, one of the nation's fastest growing cities in the United States. Prior to becoming mayor, he served on the San Antonio City Council beginning in 2013. Mayor Nirenberg has focused his public service on smart city and regional planning, inclusive economic development, environmental stewardship, as well as fiscal responsibility and government accountability. And Jochen Partsch has been Lord Mayor of Darmstadt since 2011. After winning a digital city competition in 2017, his administration has focused on implementing digital smart city technologies to build on an urban digital ecosystem with tangible benefits for citizens together with the city's partners from science, business, and politics. Prior to his election as Lord Mayor, Mr. Partsch served on Darmstadt's City Council beginning in 1997. And before I ask maybe each of you to do some brief introductory remarks, I wanted to really express my thanks to both of you, all of the participants in the German American Sister Cities Youth Forum, because it was a conversation that the American Council on Germany had with both of you back in November of 2020, as well as a number of other mayors in German American sister cities, which actually led to the creation of this project. And it was during that conversation that my colleague, Steve Sokol, asked you about turning the enthusiasm that you both had for sister city partnerships into action. And I wanted to play just a brief sort of snippet of that in Mayor Nirenberg's response to that question. And so hopefully I can share my screen appropriately here and let you all hear that. So bear with me. Here we go.
As I've listened to you both, I've seen a lot of enthusiasm about this collaboration and partnership. And I guess the question that I have is, how does one turn ideas and enthusiasm into action?
You hire good people. I think, and that's something I think we both do because we know each other's teams very well. And I think it starts with teamwork, making sure that we have different people in the agencies that embrace this ethic that can begin to, create action plans and act on them. I am enthusiastic about this. One thing the pandemic has taught us is that we can do much more with regard to exchanges than we thought we could because the technology is there. There's nothing stopping us from being connected daily if there was a desire and a need to. And so the opportunity now to take our exchanges that we've been doing from a leadership level and be able to provide that for communities all across our cities. There's nothing stopping us, for instance, now in a grade school in San Antonio to be able to create a connection and an exchange with a grade school in Darmstadt. Why not have our kindergartners and our first graders be able to talk to their peers in Germany? That's ultimately how we create a generation of civically minded and internationally focused students and ultimately create and build upon an infrastructure of peace. So I think this pandemic has been dreadful on a number of levels, but it has also given us some glimpses into a more collaborative future.
So it was as if you were foreshadowing what we did. We didn't do an exchange with kindergartners, but we took that idea and really it inspired us to create this project. So I'm really grateful that you had those ideas. I'm grateful to the San Antonio Youth Commission and Global Engagement Office in San Antonio, and the Jugendbildungswerk and the Amt für Vielfalt und internationale Beziehungen in Darmstadt for working with me to make this project a reality. And again, just I want to thank them for their support and collaboration. So with that, I'd actually now like to turn it over to the mayors and maybe just again, hear a little bit from each of you, how things have developed in the last year. Maybe just pick one of the topics that we focused on last year and in our project. We discussed climate change and sustainability. We also discussed diversity, equity, inclusion. And overall, we talked about the topic of youth civic engagement. So I'd be curious, maybe just take one of those and give us a sense of how things have developed in the last year. And since we just heard from you, Mayor Nirenberg, even though it was kind of a throwback Wednesday, maybe we'll start off with Oberbürgermeister Partsch for a few comments from Darmstadt.
Yes, yeah, sure, Mr. Fenstermacher. Yeah, thank you very much. Dear Ron, dear friends from San Antonio, I'm very happy to see you again, and I hope next year we will see us in reality. Yeah, and it's a great pleasure to join this meeting and this conversation. Okay, short review on the last years and the issues you mentioned. Okay, as you know, Darmstadt and San Antonio have developed since 2017 a vibrant relationship with youth initiatives that help create relationships among the members of the next generation. And this conversation also, the inclusion of young people in political and social processes is a high priority for Darmstadt. Not least the climate crisis of recent years has demonstrated the necessity for generationally compatible policies addressed to those who will have to live with the consequences of today's decisions. And as a swarm city with a particularly young population, Darmstadt is especially committed to the interests of this demographic group. The city government seeks direct contact with children and youth, with the Fridays for Future movement in Darmstadt, but with some different groups in this, not only in this field of political discussions. Myself, as well as Mayor and Department Head for Youth Affairs, Barbara Aktenitz, and the City Councillor Michael Kolmer, to the friends from San Antonio. Warm greetings from Michael to Ron and to all of you. Regularly exchange views with Darmstadt's younger population. Even during the pandemic, digital formats ensured that children and youth could make their voices heard. This is a little advantage in these times. We also maintain communication with youth representatives, such as the Youth Forum Darmstadt. Mr. Fenstermacher, you mentioned the Jugendforum. Youth Forum Darmstadt is an important intersection between young people and the city administration. This forum allows youth to meet in specifically rented locations in order to formulate and address their requests to the city government with support of the Youth Education Center. The Youth Education Center also administers the so-called Youth Fund, which allows young people to apply for financial support for projects aimed at the political expression and active participation of civil society. Young Darmstädters can also share their views on urban policy through participation in different associations. I just I remember on the Fridays for Future, is a member of the Climate Change Advisory Board, Youth Council, in German, the Jugendring. The Youth Council is part of the Citizens Committee for City Partnerships, and the Youth Forum, also Jugendforum, is involved in international exchange programs such as our event with San Antonio today. Our youth in Darmstadt is actively involved in shaping our city's development and makes a valuable contribution to finding solutions to transnational and global problems such as climate change and migration. As an issue of global significance, climate protection enjoys the highest priority in Darmstadt. Since 2011, the city government has intensified efforts at sustainable development and has produced significant successes. In 2021, along the establishment of a department for climate protection. The head of department, Dr. Voss, is also joining our meeting. Hello, Patrick. And the signing of the Agenda 2030 by the City Council have illustrated our focus. The city government's coalition agreement accords climate protection the highest significance. Darmstadt has taken various measures in the past years to fight climate change here on the ground, following the maxim, think globally, act locally. All local measures are first tested for sustainability. Ron and our friends from San Antonio, you, for example, you know Dr. Wolf, yeah, the head of our Integra, yeah, Integra uses only renewable energy and no nuclear energy, no fossil energy for the people and for the entrepreneurs in our city and region. Meanwhile, urban development projects are planned to include the concerns of children and youth and promote their participation. The city of Darmstadt attaches a special importance to incorporating the voices of all citizens as a diverse immigrant community and a gathering place of different cultures, for different cultures and ways of life. Our city promotes the harmonious coexistence of all communities. Numerous city programs, projects, and activities in cooperation of the city administration and civil society facilitate active participation in the shaping of our city as a well-livable place marked by diversity and equity. Ever since the onset of the COVID pandemic, it should be clear to everyone that the challenges of our time can only be solved through the cooperation of all nations. Cities undoubtedly play a central role, since most people across the world live in urban areas, and the solutions to global challenges must be implemented there. And by participating in political debates here and internationally, young people provide their visions of appropriate solutions and lay the foundations for the world of tomorrow. And participation ensures a high priority in Darmstadt, and we hope to strengthen and perpetuate the participation of children and youth in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oberbürgermeister Partsch. I already have a number of questions that I think I could start asking, but I want to give Mayor Nirenberg an opportunity to maybe respond a little bit to that, and maybe we could hear also how San Antonio is engaging youth in a number of these issues, which I know is something that's very important to you and to the city as well. And then we'll go into the question and answer.
Sure. Well, thank you, Rob. And it's great to see my friend Jochen. It's been a while. We've had the opportunity to host him here. We've had the opportunity to be hosted by him over there, and we're looking forward to getting back to that after the pandemic. So it's great to see all of our friends in Darmstadt. Let me respond by focusing in on what Lord Mayor was talking about, and that's really the exchanges and work that we've done collaboratively on climate, in particular, the climate intersection with youth engagement. It is both of our philosophies that the work that we have to do to address climate change and mitigating the impacts and coping with readiness for the impacts is centered on our ability to engage youth to drive that effort. It is really the young people of the world that are leading nations into addressing climate change, and that won't ever change. And so our focus here in San Antonio has been to establish a structure by which young people can continue to engage. I formed a mayor's youth ambassador council on climate change about a year and a half or so ago. It's into its second iteration now. It's been recognized as an effective means to continue our efforts and by the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which I'm very proud about. But we have engaged the young people of San Antonio specifically on helping us to stay accountable to our climate action and adaptation plan, which we adopted a couple of years ago now. And it's extremely important. Since I last saw you, San Antonio has experienced numerous crises on top of the pandemic, one of them specifically related to climate change, and that is Winter Storm Uri, which was a incredible humanitarian crisis and climate crisis all wrapped in one. And I won't go into detail about what happened. Suffice it to say, it brought the state of Texas and a large part of the south of the United States to its knees and really forced us to examine our energy policies and our emergency preparedness policies. And we're undergoing that right now through the lens of climate action and adaptation. And what I mean by that is that we have debt and we have infrastructure issues related to our dependence on oil and gas as a primary means to generate electricity here in Texas. And that has created an economic and humanitarian crisis that we experienced during Winter Storm Uri. So San Antonio, as well as cities across the state, are trying to examine how we build a more resilient energy grid, but also how we pay for it in the light of the fact that renewable energy generation is not at the level of development that all traditional and fossil fuels are. So we are working very hard right now through our committees and our public process to get our energy system back online in a more durable capacity. And then on the other side of that, we're working from the climate action and adaptation framework and the implementation plan to address not just the energy utility, but all of the different parts that are dependent on it, our housing, our transportation system, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of work going on. And just to close, again, all of it dependent on our ability to keep the conversation at the forefront for San Antonio residents. And that's the charge of our youth engagement, our young ambassadors who are very focused on the future that we're going to leave them, which has a lot to do with how true we are to our climate action plans.
You'd think after a year and a half that I'd remember that I have to unmute myself, but still learning. Thank you both. I do want to already encourage participants and others on the call that if you have a question, please use the raise hand function. Again, unfortunately just got a few participants, so you guys are going to be a little bit on the spot to come up with some questions. But maybe I'll start off and ask you both a question. You know, we've had some really good conversations over the last few months where we had speakers come in and talk about climate change and sustainability from a German and American perspective to sort of show the differences, but also the similarities. We had a really good conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and sort of, again, the different terminology, the cultural background that affects folks. And then overall, we talked about youth civic engagement and sort of, you know, how youth can get more involved in dealing with these issues. And both of you touched on that and talked about how they're doing that. I guess I'd be curious if, you know, we've now had this conversation. How do you think the youth, whether in this project or in some follow-on project in an international way between Darmstadt and San Antonio, can continue to have an impact together? Like, is there a particular project you think they could work on? Is there some initiative, you know, so that, you know, there's more outcome coming from the conversations they're having? I think they've learned a really good understanding that there are a lot of similarities and challenges they can confront together, but how could they actually implement something together? Maybe I'll start with you, Mayor Nirenberg. It's a tough question, maybe.
That is a tough question, but it's also, I think, the question that Lord Mayor Partsch and I consider whenever we host exchanges, is where do our city policies and our programs and initiatives overlap? Where do we have common ground on the issues that we're facing in San Antonio and Darmstadt so that we can collaborate on them? And so for me, I think it's a matter of engaging our young people on our agendas that are part of the Sister City framework. And for us, very clearly, you laid out some of those, Rob. Climate change comes to the top. It's an international issue in which city policies are going to drive our ability to meet the challenge. I also think that trade policy is a little bit complex, but parts of trade policy are also important for young people to discuss, such as labor standards, which need to be discussed internationally for us to have, you know, a more cohesive economic framework internationally. Health outcomes and what we expect from our health infrastructure within cities is important in light of the pandemic and the social vulnerabilities that have been exposed. So I think that a lot of what we're doing right now at a policymaking level for leadership in our sister cities can apply directly to the councils. And so how do we make that happen? I love this. I had no idea that you were already planning the youth exchange. So I'm delighted that it's in context of the discussions that Lord Mayor and I have had. But there's no reason why this can't be an ongoing or an iterative effort. I'd love to see a youth exchange every year, every 2 years, or some sort between our different cities that are developed enough in their sister city capacities to handle them. And of course, they have the council to underpin the work here. But if that's a possibility, that our agenda is the agenda of young people in our communities.
Thank you, Mayor Nirenberg. Maybe I would jump on and say an idea might be that if you all had a specific topic within that agenda that you wanted them to really spend some time thinking about and getting recommendations from them, that would be something that would be targeted, that we could give them and they would be able to focus on it. You know, give us a recommendation on X, on how you all from a Darmstadt and San Antonio perspective might be interested. And I think that would be helpful, again, given the conversations I've had with folks, with the kids. So Oberbürgermeister Partsch.
I totally agree to my friend Ron. Yeah, I think it's necessary to improve and to find the best practices for fighting against climate change in our cities, yeah, and to try and to realize an exchange of the best practices. I told about and Ron and used that our energy supplier Integra, yeah, with the focus on renewable energies. Yeah, I think this this is one of the important fields of transformation to a resilient future. Next field is, I think, the housing and the preparing of our houses for these challenges. Yeah, this section we also have made some experiences and will make a very great program in the next 10 years with our buildings of the government, but also the buildings of privates in Darmstadt. The third section is the smart and resilient traffic. I know that Ron likes our tram. Yeah. So there are different possibilities for cooperation and collaboration, but perhaps it's the best way when we find especially projects where young people are excited and interested. Yeah, we have for example, we have in Darmstadt a very active community of climate activists, and we collaborate with those groups in numerous projects. One example is Heine Bike. Heine Bike, you know, Heine is the name of the old Darmstädters, the Heine, and this is a free cargo bike rental service. Yeah, and this free cargo bike rental service is very popular. Yeah, and a lot of people use this now, and perhaps this will be a project we can make an exchange, or the Heine Energy, a group promoting the use of photovoltaic for privates. Yeah, so I think there are a lot of best practices we can exchange and improve our local climate change policies.
Thank you. So,
but absolutely necessary, Mr. Fenstermann, for this is to see us again in reality.
And in fact, that is something, you know, when we originally conceived of this project, our goal had been to do a series of virtual meetings to allow the participants to meet and talk. And that our hope had been following that we would actually do an in-person exchange so that some representatives from each of the 10 cities that were involved in the project would get to do a trip. And we are in fact looking into that possibility so that some of the participants in this exchange, maybe next year, will still be able to do a trip, which I think we all recognize that in-person and relationship building is key. I saw we have
I'm ready.
In the room. I again would like to ask Michael, Marai, Liliana, please, you know, raise your hands, ask a question. I'm going to wait for you to do that, but I've got one more question. Oh, Liliana's got a question. I'll let Liliana unmute yourself and you can ask the question.
Yeah, so this is a question to both of the mayors. And so we've talked about youth engagement and collaborating with the youth. And so I know that not everyone is able to participate in meetings and stuff like this. So for people who are, you know, busy with school and extracurriculars, what is the best way that you recommend the youth to reach out to you and to a city government if they're passionate about something like this, and the best way to make those conversations meaningful?
Who'd like to start?
So that's a tricky question. Thank you, Liliana. That's a question that we constantly struggle with, but I'll say a few things. One is that we're trying to establish different commissions and committees and structures that allow for a diversity of students to participate. And what we always encourage is that, just like your government, not everybody can participate, but those who we put in those seats need to be our eyes and ears and our voice for those who can't be there. So we encourage the members of those commissions to act as representatives for their communities. So a good way to engage for students or schools that aren't able to make the meetings, for instance, is to engage through your representative, your district youth representative, depending on which council it is. The other thing is, for every way there is to communicate with another person or a group in our community, we're trying to make that channel available to communicate back to my office, back to the city government, whether it's through old and new social media outlets, through traditional means like email and website forms, things like that. We're trying to be everywhere at all times. And so if you want to reach me directly, that's we're trying to make sure that we're covering all the channels. It doesn't always happen. If you know of a new place, a new way to communicate, let me know and we can try to get on that as well. But in terms of the structured councils and youth committees, we try to make sure that the students who are not there are able to communicate with their representatives.
Thank you. And Herr Partsch, how about in Darmstadt?
I think after our discussion, after the discussion between Ron and me, there will be an additional hour for the participants, and you can create some ideas. But in my introduction, I talked about some forms of participation, and actually I think there are three possibilities. We don't talk today about the cooperation between our universities, and the universities, there are also a lot of young people. We have a cooperation between the Technical University of Darmstadt and the University of Texas San Antonio. I think there are chances for a new project. When I'm not sure, but Mrs. Sakalyuk, I think our youth orchestra will make a journey to San Antonio in the next year, and so this will be a part of a cultural exchange. And then I think it is necessary that the political organized and structurized structures of participation of young people has to find a new connection, the connection between your young people, Ron, and ours.
Thank you both, and it is clear that you both are very engaged. And I thought I would just mention, I did this conversation, I guess a week and a half ago, with the mayor of Charlotte and the mayor of Krefeld, Germany, which is also a sister city. And the mayor in Krefeld indicated, I want to say it was once a week, but it may have only been once a month. He said he does office hours that are only for youth. And he's been doing it virtually via Zoom, where any youth can log on and basically, like we're doing now, have an hour-long conversation with the mayor, which I thought was, yet another avenue of being able to have that interactive.
Great idea.
And again, the virtual nature makes it pretty easy to do. I thought that was interesting. But both are doing wonderful things as well. Maybe turn to another topic because I don't see a hand raised. We had some. Oh, actually, Michael raised his hand before I could ask my question. I'm going to turn it to Michael. Michael Valdez.
Hello. One of the conversations we had when we were doing our youth conversations was talking about being environmentally friendly. So I want to ask the mayors, like, what advice or initiatives do y'all have to like be more environmental friendly and reducing plastic waste and using other alternatives, such as going to the grocery store with reusable bags or anything?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time trying to talk about practical things that people can be doing in their community. So Mayor Nirenberg, you can start off and then we'll turn to Oberbürgermeister Partsch.
Well,
Yeah, okay. Ron.
no, go ahead, Jochen.
Okay, we just started a project, the Darmstadt Fair Cup. Yeah, Fair Cup. It is for a system where restaurants and mensas, like the Mensa of the Technical University or the hospital, are joined in, so that we don't need so many plastic cups. Yeah, and this is one very yeah, we started it now, but this will bring a lot of success in the right use of this plastic waste. One
great initiative.
Yeah, and I would just say so there's always challenges being in the state of Texas on issues like this, because some of those things that we would like to implement that have been identified by young people or by commissions or even our own city council are sometimes limited by state law. However, there are a number of things that we can do and encourage behaviors. And so we have embarked from time to time on education campaigns. And the plastic issue that you mentioned, Michael, is one of those really important ones, because San Antonio is a city of waterways. One of the education campaigns that we're engaging with right now with the San Antonio River Authority is to help reduce the waste that is ending up in our San Antonio River Basin. It's causing ecological damage, it's causing habitat loss. And so we are working with them to elevate the issue, to make sure that people don't, litter and have it impact our waterways. But then from a policy standpoint, I think we've identified a number of those ways that we can be more environmentally responsible. And that is the crux of the implementation of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. So the role of our ambassadors, our youth ambassadors, really is to hold your policymakers, including myself, accountable to implementing the plan. It's not always easy because we have pushback from various interest groups from time to time, but it is ultimately the role of the policymakers to implement that plan, and that's what it was designed to do. So your role is important. It's not necessarily coming up with new initiatives. It's really holding us accountable to implementing the ones that are in the plan.
That's excellent. And I think that was something I've heard in some of our other conversations about the importance of youth on whatever issue it is that they are passionate about, is to in fact let their voices be heard, to keep you all accountable. And even going back earlier to, I think, the question of how to contact you, I think people have forgotten about the old, why don't you just write a letter to your mayor on a piece of paper and send it in? I have done it multiple times with my mayor here in White Plains, New York, and I always get a response either from the mayor or from the appropriate department that is working on that issue. And I think we often forget that just taking that little time, you can actually do a lot. I think, unfortunately, we've run out of time because I know Mayor Nirenberg, I think you have another appointment soon after this. So I feel badly that we have to end the conversation, but this was wonderful. And again, I want to thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedules to chat with us all. As I've mentioned, I think we had some great dialogue in our earlier meetings. We had a little opportunity to chat again today about some of these issues. And I'm really hopeful that we can continue this and hopefully engage you in the future again in some of the conversations that the youth between the Youth Commission and the Jugendamt and the Jugendforum in Darmstadt have been having. But before I let you go, it would be great if I could kind of take a picture of everybody on the screen, and if everyone could kind of smile and wave, that would allow me to do a screen later on. So on the count of 3, everybody smile and just wave, okay? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Guaranteed I'll be able to get a screenshot from that. So thank you both again. I hope you have a great day out in San Antonio, Mayor Nirenberg, and noch einen schönen Abend, Herr Partsch, in Darmstadt.
Vielen Dank. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great to see you, Jochen. My
Yeah,
best
great to
Daniela.
see you, Ron. Yeah.
Thanks.
Lots of greetings. Be confident. Yeah.
Thank you both. Have a great rest of the day. And for everybody else,
too.
please stay on.
Yes.
We're going to continue.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.